everybody. This is just Mitchin. I'm Mitchin, your host. And Abe's not here today, but I have a very special guest, Jeff Pearlman. Jeff, how you doing, brother?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for talking to me.
Oh, no, dude. Thank you for talking to me. We're such a little podcast. You're a 9-time New York Times best-selling author.
That's not really true.
No?
Exaggerate. Well, I have my 9th book coming out.
Okay.
I've written 8 books. 6 were on the list. So technically 9 is an exaggeration. But I got no problem. I feel like we live in an era of exaggeration.
Right.
So I'm actually a 23-time New York Times best-selling author this year.
Perfect. No, man. My favorite book of all time is Brett Favre, Gunslinger. I've read this twice.
Wow.
And I'm that crazy kid that can tell you Brett Favre's middle name. I knew about the car accident before most people did when they read the book, because I read the autobiography that he released after he won the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So I had that one as a kid. Like, I grew up, Brett Favre is, it goes like God, my parents, my siblings, Brett Favre. That's
and
how
then my book. And then the Favre book is finished.
Yeah, and then the Favre book. No, it was a Christmas present. I begged my mom. I was like, Mom, you got to get this. She's like, you don't even like books. And I'm like, it's Brett. And she's like, okay, I get it. It's
That's awesome.
joke. Like, she gets me a Brett Favre, something every year. This was this year's Christmas present.
I don't want to complain, but you probably don't know this. Since you read the book twice, you're actually supposed to pay me twice.
Oh, am I supposed to?
Yeah, I didn't get that check.
Oh, man. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it's okay.
So, what got you into writing? Where were you always into being a writer, through high school and stuff? What made you want to become a journalist?
Well, I grew up in a small town called Mahopac, New York, which is about an hour north of New York City. And I was a good runner. I was a good runner. I was a strong runner, and ran in college a little and blah 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 blah. But I always loved sports. I wasn't allowed to play football. I wasn't very good at baseball. Love sports though. And when I got to high school, I started writing for my high school newspaper, The Chieftain. And I had a moment. I've talked about this before, and it's really true. I had a moment. I think it was my senior year of high school. I was sports editor of the Mahopac High School Chieftain. And I wrote an article called Cheerleading, Sport or Activity, right? And it was basically me kind of dumping on cheerleading. And I remember I wrote it, and it came out, and I was sitting at a lunch table, and all the cheerleaders surrounded me, right? And they were mad. And I'm like 17 or 18, had never kissed a girl, had no game whatsoever. And you're surrounded by these girls and pom-poms and the breasts and the perfume. And, you're just like, holy shit, they're paying attention to me. This is amazing. They're paying attention to me. And so I would say, I think for a lot of people, and myself included, it's not my reason now for writing, but when I was a young writer getting into it, it was like you had a voice. You had a voice. And if you could express yourself well, and if you weren't afraid to put your opinions out there, you had a voice. And I think that really resonated with me early on.
Well, especially back then, you didn't have Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, where now everybody can put their voice out. I think it's almost too much at times, especially nowadays. But that's really cool. I was never a writer in high school. I was an athlete, played football, baseball. I was okay at football. I was a big kid. I was 6'2" in high school already, and I was skinny. But I was a baseball guy. Played baseball, was good at it. Blew my elbow out my senior year, and that basically went downhill.
Did you have your badass beard in high school or no?
No, I did not. I didn't. This didn't start growing till I was 21. I think. Good. After the military, so 22 was when I finally started trying to grow it out, and I never got rid of it. I trim it. This is long for me, but with COVID and everything, they won't do beard cuts. And
so where do we have to go? Where do we have to go?
Exactly. I don't leave the house really. We went to In-N-Out today, so that was pretty cool because they have a new one in Salem. So I haven't had In-N-Out in a long time.
A little overrated.
I like it. I like any kind of food. I'm a fat kid at heart.
The milkshakes are overrated. Milkshakes suck now.
Really? I think they're so good. I think the Napoleon is so good.
What? They're it's like cotton candy mixed with milk. It's terrible. I hate those milkshakes. Hate.
It's it's the only time I'll go Jack in the Box.
Much better milkshakes.
Really? We have one around here. I don't eat there too often. It's hard for me. I'm gluten free. And so In-N-Out's a great place to eat gluten free because they have the protein style and that. When I was doing all my research on you, I loved the Larry King photo. in your bio that you have.
Oh, thanks.
Where you're like, I wasn't asking the question, but I look like I am. Mm-hmm. Who are some of your most favorite people that you've got to interview throughout your long career?
Oh, man. This is the second time you've made me feel old, because first you made it clear before we started that I'm the same age as your parents. Now you've told me my long career.
Dude, but it's a great career. I mean, you've written.
I'm kidding.
I know. You've written some of the best books out there.
Oh, I appreciate that. I don't know if I'd say that, but I appreciate it. I mean, I've had a lot of, it's like, I've been doing this for a long time. I really have. That's true. I started in 1994. You know, this sounds dumb, but one of my big thrills when I was in college, Jimmy Carter came to campus, and they made sure to let the student newspaper ask a question. And I remember like being so nervous about asking a former president a question and getting asked to ask Jimmy Carter a question. And then, you know, I ended up writing, about a decade ago, I wrote a biography of Walter Payton. And he was dead when I wrote the book. But when I was a young writer at Sports Illustrated, 1999, the year you were born? You were born in
1992.
Oh, okay, good. All right. 1999, Walter Payton was dying. And he was promoting, I think, kidney donation or organ donation. And the magazine sent me out to interview him. And it was me and a dying Walter Payton, like a fading, dying Walter Payton sitting behind a desk talking. And really memorable, really memorable and really tragic and heartbreaking. But to be honest with you, most of my favorite interviews are the guy at the end of the bar, the garbage man, the guy playing music in the street. Like, for some reason, well, I understand it, we sort of are taught to believe, especially sports fans, oh, what's it like to talk to Mike Trout? What's it like to talk to, and generally, here's what it's like to talk to Mike Trout. Mike, what'd you do today? Well, I woke up, I had my protein shake, I took a nap, then I went to the cage to get some swings in, then I went to the stadium, got some more swings in, then I sat, then I got some more swings in, then I went up to the, like, I'm fascinated, and like the beauty of this job is you get to ask people about their unique experiences, and a lot of times the best experiences and the best people to talk to have nothing to do with sports whatsoever.
Right. That's why we started this podcast, is we're going to try to take Pat McAfee's like beautiful recipe of what he's got going on and do it our own way. And Abe and I are both big into collecting cards. We're big into the hobby. And Project 2020 with Topps came out. They took 20 artists and 20 historical baseball cards and had them redo it their own way. And then we started talking to artists about it. And then I'm like, man, our first interview was Dave Sims, who does the Mariners games and broadcast.
I know Dave.
Yeah,
Dave's a great guy. Dave
got that was probably the most stressful interview for our first interview, because he gave us one day, like gave us that day. Like I asked him, and he's like, "Do you have time today?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, and he didn't respond. I said, "We can do it today." He's like, "Okay, let's go." And we did it. And Dave's great. He carried the conversation, helped us out, didn't make us feel like we had no idea what we were doing, because we didn't. And then we had Blake Jameson, and we kind of got into artists, and I was like, man, I want to get into, I like talking to people who love sports but don't really play it, or like don't have that aspect. And going into your first big break was the John Rocker story.
My first big break was getting hired by Sports Illustrated.
Okay. Yeah. All right. What was it like working for Sports Illustrated in that time when, I mean, people were reading papers? I mean,
it was the best, man. It was magic. My dream as a kid was to write for Sports Illustrated. That was my goal. And it was a dream. It was like, I always say, I've used this line before only because it's true. Sports Illustrated every year would fly in all the writers to the office at Christmas time. They'd hold a State of the Magazine meeting. All the writers would be there. And when I was promoted to be a staff writer, it was my first time in one of these meetings. So it was probably maybe 1997 or 1998 around Christmas. And I remember being in the room with like Rick Riley and Steve Rushin and Lee Montville and Peter King and all my heroes, my writing heroes. And I always say I was like Christian Laettner on the 92 Dream Team. Like I know I didn't really belong there, and I didn't really have a business being there. And I was just so starstruck being around those guys. And the beauty of SI, I was a baseball writer at SI, basically from 96 to 03. And the beauty of it was only about putting out a good magazine. That's the only thing that mattered inside those offices. So my job, most of the time it was like, all right, Tuesday you're going to go to Chicago, cover Cubs Brewers. Then Wednesday we want to fly you to Cincinnati, try to get the Reds so you can talk to whoever, blah, 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 pitcher. Barry Larkin, talk to Barry Larkin. Then we want to fly out to LA for 4 days and try to spend some time with Gary Sheffield. And then you'd start a new week. And it was all about just getting the best stuff possible. It was amazing. And it's sad. It is what it is, but like, that doesn't really exist anymore. You know, it just doesn't exist anymore. So it was a great experience for me as a young baseball player. The best.
Well, that's awesome. Like, especially getting to talk to like a bunch of Hall of Famers in the 90s. I mean, like you said, Barry Larkin, he seems like he'd be an interesting guy. Just really cool with like, I loved how he played defense. He's so flashy and so classy at it. But with John Rocker, was he really as nutty as it was, as like the piece that you had out? Like, was he really that big of a bigot? Or still is, probably?
It's terrible. I'll put it this way. The story comes out, he fades away. What's happened to John Rocker? Oh, he's selling Speak English t-shirts out of his car. Like, that was his thing for a while. He was writing for a far, far, far right, like kind of like QAnon extreme website, you know, conspiracy theories. He's just like, there's something not right with that guy. You know, like there's just something not right with that guy where I don't know. So, yeah, you know, he was just a bad guy, and you're driving around with him for hours and hours, and you quickly realize this is not a good guy. And I always say the job of a writer isn't to, it's not to debate with the subject. Like, as a human being, I'm a liberal New York Jewish guy, right? That's who I was born as. That's what I was raised as. As a reporter, though, I just want to know who you are, and I want to come to understand you. And if that means you love hunting and fishing and Trump, great. I don't care. That means you love blah, 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 blah. Great. I don't care. And in that case, my job was just to sit there, talk to him, try to figure out who he was. And that's what I did.
I mean, that article forever changed my life. It's the first one I like really read in sports, like that, like at 7 years old, that I could bring around my head. And I still remember when I was doing my research on you, I'm like, oh, I've read that. And then it's like you guys are always going to be stuck together, kind of like Peyton Manning and I went with that analogy, and Ryan Leaf. Like, it's kind of those two things I think will always be.
I hope I'm Manning.
You definitely are Manning out of that.
Although Leaf is a great guy, by the way. Actually, Ryan Leaf is a really good guy, and he kind of turned his life around. I know he had something recently, but
because he's with the Pac-12 network now, right? Mm-hmm. And ESPN. Yeah, he seems like he went from as low as you can get to like as well as you can get from where he came from. I mean, he went to prison, right, for stealing stuff for drugs, right?
Yeah, he had a rough go, and he's actually a genuinely nice guy. He's an addict, obviously, and he knows he's an addict, and he has a lot of trouble. But he's from what I know him a little bit, and from just, I think he really learned. He was never going to work as an NFL player because he was too big of an asshole at that age. He was just 22 and selfish and self-absorbed and thought he had all the answers, and he didn't, and he was incapable of realizing that. And then when he got older, kind of like the start of my career early on, I was the same way as a young newspaper writer. I was an asshole who thought I had all the answers. And you either adjust and kind of learn and find humility, or you struggle a lot. And he struggled a lot before he found it. Yeah.
No, I can relate to struggling a lot, trying to figure out who you are and stuff. But going on to your writing, how do you pick who you're going to write a book about? Because your first book was the 86 Mets. They're notorious for being big partiers. Then you've done the Cowboys. You've done Brett Favre. It's kind of like you like to pick notorious, infamous people. Am I right?
I've had people say that to me. I would say that is incorrect.
Okay.
Here's why. I did the 86 Mets. First of all, the idea was brought to me. That's the only book I've written where it was not my idea.
Okay.
Although the Cowboys were suggested by a friend of a friend, so I'll say that too. But 86 Mets, an agent brought it to me. And 1986, I was 13 going on 14, growing up in New York. So the team was it was a perfect subject for me. Had nothing to do with, they're wild and crazy. I didn't know that much about them. I knew Gooden and Strawberry had their drug problems, and et cetera, but I didn't know that much. So I wouldn't say I picked them because of that. I wrote biographies of Barry Bonds, of Roger Clemens, of Walter Payton, and of Brett Favre. I wouldn't say they all have their things, but I wouldn't say, it's not like I'm writing about prostitutes and pimps, like this is what I always say. if you want to pay me to write a book about the 1999 Cleveland Browns, or you want the Omar Vizquel biography, I can do that, and I'm happy to do that. I don't think people are interested in it. Subjects matter, and when you're writing about someone, they either have to be iconic like Walter Payton, controversial like Brett Favre, not like Brett Favre, like Barry Bonds with some kind of thing, a team that's really memorable, usually for winning, but also for swagger, like the Cowboys and the Mets. Like, again, I'm happy to write the Tim Couch biography if someone cares. I don't think anyone cares. So
maybe those people from Oklahoma would care.
Maybe
that's right. Maybe.
No, Tim Couch went to Kentucky.
Kentucky. Oh, okay, yes. Was I thinking that went to Oklahoma?
But it's just like you got to write about big subjects. Like I write. I love writing. I love reporting. I have to make a living out of it. And these are subjects. You have a Chipper Jones book behind you. Chipper Jones is a great subject for a book. He wrote his own book.
Right. I mean, Larry Wayne Jones Jr. Yeah.
Larry Jones pissed me off in that book because he I was in the airport skimming through it. This was about a year ago to see if he wrote about Rocker, and he basically slammed me for taking advantage of Rocker.
Oh, I'm gonna have to read that. It literally just came to the house today. I just put it behind me.
It's a good book.
Is it? I'm excited.
He's a nice guy. I can beat. I don't care.
I like him on Sunday Night Baseball. He's done a very good job.
Smart. I remember, not the years when I was covering baseball, Chipper Jones was a go-to guy. He was just one of the superstars who you could go to, and if they lost, he was very insightful. I remember when they lost the second World Series to the Yankees, not the 96 one, the other one.
98.
And he was like, 98.
Yeah.
No, 98 was the Padres, 99 was the Braves.
Okay.
And he was like, I remember people went to him, myself included, after the game. They were just better than us. They are a better team than we are. They are better than us. We would have had to do a ton of stuff to win the series because they are just a far superior team to us. Very few guys ever say stuff like that. Very few guys ever admit shortcomings like that. And I just always remember it. So he slammed me in the book a little, but I don't care. I kind of enjoy Chipper Jones.
I mean, when you're going to write, I think, or do anything where you put your opinions out there, you're going to be slammed. You're going to get the criticism. How do you deal with criticism from people? How do you keep moving forward?
I don't get that much of it. I mean, I'm just a writer. I'm not like Chipper Jones where everyone's like, oh, you suck or you're great. But, I mean, I don't like when people, I think a lot of times people will assume, I hate when people say, well, you're just doing this for the money. You're just doing this for the money, right? You write a book. Well, you're just doing it for the money. And it's like, these things are passion projects for me times 1,000. You can't see behind me, not that well, but I'm working on a book now. I'm kind of paranoid about talking about the subject out loud, but it's my life. And I absorb this stuff. And all I do is think about the subject or whatever subject I'm working on. And it's everything to me. So
you're the man of 500 interviews.
I don't know who started calling me that, but I'm sure that I can write what you got. But I do take a lot of pride in calling and calling and calling and calling and calling. And I could write a book. Conceivably, I could write the same book and take 6 months and slop it out there and get the same amount of money. And it actually wound up being better money because I get the same amount. It'd be quicker and I could turn it around quicker. And maybe my past books would help me sell some schlocky piece of crap book I write now. But I don't want to do it. I love writing and I love reporting and I love the dig. So I do hate when people, or every now and then you'll see a review on Amazon, right? You shouldn't read your own Amazon reviews, but sometimes I do. And someone will say, learn nothing new in this book. And I'm always like, learn nothing new? I interviewed 700 people for this book. You learn nothing new? That drives me. When people say, I learn nothing new, if you really want to get under my skin, just like Larry, people call him Chipper Larry, tell me to learn nothing new. It drives me crazy because you work really hard to find new stuff. That's the whole thing.
No, being a crazy Brett Favre fan since I was little, I found plenty of new things that I didn't know. I didn't know about I knew him and Aaron didn't get along, but I didn't know the whole grandpa thing until I read your book. I didn't know it. And in my family, we like Aaron Rodgers, but it's not how Brett Favre is. And I think it's because Brett Favre brings that persona. He's that kid from Mississippi, but he's as real as your next door neighbor. He's dealt with the drug problems. He is an alcoholic. He's cheated on his wife. But he also comes out there and he's bigger than life because he played every Sunday. He never missed a game. I mean, the guy was amazing. What made you want to write about Brett Favre?
I didn't really want to write about Brett Favre. My last book was about the USFL, the old United States Football League.
Right.
I've been wanting to write that book forever and ever. I couldn't get a book deal. There's a publisher, Houghton Mifflin, who published Favre and USFL. No, we don't want to do a USFL book. And I said, if I do a Brett Favre book, like I had that idea there, like Brett Favre, but I didn't really want to write it. If I do a Brett Favre book, please let me write the USFL book for cheap. So I took less money to do Favre, so they would pay me to do the USFL. And they insisted I do Favre first. All right, I'll do Favre first. Freaking loved it. Loved the entire experience. Loved everything about it. Love his story. Love his family. They're super quirky and fun and unique. And his mom, Bonita, I consider a friend, which is kind of weird because why Brett Favre's mom is your friend. But I really like her. And I kind of agree. The thing about Favre, along what you said, is he the best quarterback of all time? No. I don't think there's an argument to be made that Brett Favre is the best quarterback in NFL history. No, do you really believe that he's the best? No. But find me a more entertaining one. Like, find me someone you'd rather watch. I just think he's the most entertaining quarterback in NFL history who was great. So maybe he's 7th all time, right?
Right.
But I don't think any of the top 6 are guys I'd rather watch play sitting at home on the TV having to kill 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon. I think that's an amazing legacy, that you were an amazing quarterback, one of the best of all time, but you were the one most people would want to watch play.
He's Peter Pan out there. I mean, I remember being a kid watching him, and he made me laugh and he made me cry. I mean, I always remember the 2006 game against the Giants when he threw the pick.
Corey Webster.
Like, yep. And I mean, that was Favre there because he would take those risks that nobody else would. Because he had the confidence that he could put it in that little bit of a hole. Because he had that cannon of an arm.
I think Rodgers is a better quarterback, to be honest with you. I think Aaron Rodgers is a better NFL quarterback than Favre, but I think Favre was just a far more unique and interesting and engaging player to watch. And I'd rather – the truth of the matter is one day this planet is going to blow up and nobody's going to remember who won what Super Bowl. It's all just entertainment.
Right.
Like, that's what it is at the end of the day. It's entertainment. That's all it is entertainment. He was freaking Sinatra, or Michael Jackson. He was that level of football entertainment where he was so great to watch. At the end of the day, he cost you some games. Like, he caught that throw against the Giants. They were the better team. They should have gotten the Super Bowl that year. He blew that. When he was with the Vikings, the throw over the middle against the Saints, he cost the Vikings a chance to go to the Super Bowl. But the entertainment value was so preposterously high that it was worth it.
Well, I mean, it's like even when his dad died, he goes out and plays Monday Night Football and has a game that people would only wish that they could do in their career. I mean, what did he have by halftime? Like 399 yards? 399, 4 touchdowns. I was watching in the hotel with my dad. I'll never forget, against Oakland. And everybody's like, and he's the kind of guy where even like Oakland fans who are brutal had signs saying, "We love you, Brett."
Yeah. And I'll tell you something crazy about Favre. Like, Favre played golf a couple weeks ago with Donald Trump.
Right.
I am very liberal. I did not love that, right?
I'm on the opposite. I'm pretty conservative.
Fair enough. Doesn't matter. But here's the thing that's amazing about it. Like, Brett Favre, like those guys, he was as close with the African-American wide receiver from inner city Gary, Indiana, as he was the white offensive lineman who went to Wisconsin. Like, he loved those guys. And that, if you watch that Raiders game, he made a lot of shitty throws that those receivers went after. Like, some of those Javon Walker catches in that game, preposterous. Like, it wasn't – Brett Favre made a lot of bad throws, but they loved that guy, and they really wanted to do it for that guy, and they just believed in him, and he instilled something in you. Like, Aaron Rodgers does not do that. No. Like, Russell Wilson does not do that. Like, Favre did something for guys that there are very few players in the NFL. It seems like Deshaun Watson might have that in Houston, where people just really want to do it for you because they freaking love you and love something about you. But very few NFL players have that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he did that with the fan base. I mean, he hasn't played in almost a decade, and we're still talking about him in that kind of way. I like watching Aaron. Aaron can be fun. Aaron can be extremely boring. He's almost too much of a perfectionist. He won't take the risk. It drives me absolutely insane. But it's kind of funny how life's repeating itself again. Green Bay just drafted another quarterback, almost in the same spot. Do you think Aaron will take it as like Favre did, or do you think Aaron will be nice to Jordan Love?
He'll probably be nicer than Favre was because it'd be hard to be a bigger asshole than Favre was to him. But that being said, I just always think this way. Like, I write books for a living.
Right.
If you tell me tomorrow, hey, we have this new guy. He's 20 years younger than you, and he's going to start writing your books too. So show him everything you know, and then we're going to force you out, and he's going to take over. Is that okay? Can you do that? No. Like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, why would I want to do that? Why do I want to make myself obsolete? I know it's a team sport, but at the end of the day, these guys are individuals. And I just think these expectations we put on athletes that they should mentor the next person along are a little exaggerated. Walter Payton, I wrote his book. He was replaced as a Bears halfback by Neil Anderson. He did nothing to help Neil Anderson. Joe Montana was a quarterback with the 49ers. They signed they get Steve Young in a trade. Very little to help Steve Young. It's more unusual when people actually do go all out to help someone than when they don't. So I don't know what Rodgers will do. He'll probably be a little nicer than Favre, but I never thought that was a real fair criticism because you're fighting for life, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Favre made his life interesting. Aaron's a sensitive guy. I just watched your Colin Cowherd interview, and I didn't know that how he pranked him. Like, I read it in the book, but I didn't know that he had everybody signing his helmet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's brutal just thinking about it. Like, you have to go out to practice, and you're the only guy, and you're a rookie.
Because here's the thing also. Like, I've spent a considerable amount of time in sports clubhouses, mainly baseball, but also NFL and NBA. It's rough. Like, it's a rough world to be in. It is rough if you're a reporter. It's rough if you're a team employee. And it's rough if you're a young player. It's like the world's most vicious frat house, you know, with like caste systems in there. And so Aaron Rodgers comes along, and you're feeling your way out, and you want to belong, and you want to fit in, and you just want to fit in and be a part of it. And that happens where everyone signs your helmet. They put on the auction. I mean, I'm sure he went to hide under the table. It was really funny and really mean at the same time, you know?
And unfortunately, it's so Brett Favre because he is that prankster. He is that kind. That's his personality.
Who did I just tell this? I think I was telling my son this. There was a part in the book, you may not remember it, when he was with the Jets. And the Jets had a coach named Jimmy Ray. And Jimmy Ray was about 70. I think he might have been 68 at the time. And Favre comes up behind him and pants him in front of the entire team. I'm like, I know it sounds funny, right? Ha ha, right? It sounds funny, here we are. But imagine being 68-year-old Jimmy Ray in front of the entire team. Like, you've worked your whole life in this profession, and like you're all about your dignity. And so it's rough. It's a rough world, you know?
And yeah, he just takes it right out of them. Before we move on to a different subject, what is your favorite Brett Favre story? Because there's so many of them. I mean, my favorite one personally is him beating Alabama when he's 30 pounds underweight. Like, that just takes balls. After, like, a car accident, he almost died. Not a lot of people know about that. Then he comes and he beats – Alabama was ranked at the time.
It was the first game of the season, and it was Gene Stallings' first game as head coach at Alabama. They were ranked.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really like – it's not a story, it's more of a time period, but I really like his rookie year with the Atlanta Falcons. It's just fascinating. Jerry Glanville was a head coach. He did not want to draft Brett Favre.
He hated him.
Hated him. He wanted them to draft Browning Nagel out of Louisville instead. Who, of course, went to the Jets, who were my team. You know, I love that year. I love that Brett Favre was like, I'm not going to play, so I'm just going to get drunk and fat. And spent that year getting drunk and fat and like indifferent. And he became a circus act for Jerry Glanville, like where he'd say, he called him Mississippi. Jerry Glanville nicknamed him Mississippi. And he'd be like, hey, Mississippi. They'd be on the road. Can you throw that ball into the upper deck pregame? Well, let's see if you can throw that ball in the upper deck. He just was like a carnival act, you know, and like it's just a fascinating year because his career really could have gone in a different horrible way to be stuck in Atlanta, you know, and like it could have been a disaster.
He owes Ron Wolf everything.
Yeah, he really does.
And he believed in him. Holmgren. I mean, Holmgren groomed him. I mean, he had a wild Mustang, like ready to go. I mean, I love watching the clips of his first game, like against Cincinnati, and he's just running around, has no idea, doesn't know the offense, just making plays happen. And
Also, what's funny? All right, so the Cincinnati game, he had a big throw to Sterling Sharp, and I remember I interviewed Sterling Sharp at a celebrity golf tournament in Nevada, and he didn't know I was coming. I walked up to him, and all I've ever heard is Sterling Sharp is a pain in the ass to deal with. Like, over and over again, Sterling Sharp is the worst. I have a friend with a really bad Sterling Sharp experience. So kind of tiptoe up to Sterling Sharp. Hey, my name is Jeff Pearlman. I'm writing Brett Favre's biography. He goes, oh, let's just talk right now. Let's just go back. And it really showed, like, people love talking about Brett Favre. Even if Sterling Sharp he wasn't buddy-buddy with Brett Favre. But everyone loves talking about Brett Favre because the stories are just really good.
Yeah, the guy is completely larger than life. What are your sports teams?
Well, I don't have many anymore, just to really cover it. I definitely grew up a diehard New York Jets fan.
Okay.
Which is why when I hear you complaining about Aaron Rodgers, I just want to list for you for a moment the quarterbacks that I've had in my lifetime. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. We had most of these people you have never heard of. Richard Todd, Matt Robinson. Our best quarterback during my time here was Ken O'Brien. We had Pat Ryan. We had Boomer Esiason at the end of his career. We had Vinny Testaverde at the end of his career. We had Ray Lucas, Chad Pennington, who was okay.
Didn't Burley play for the Jets?
Who?
Didn't Mark Burley play for the Jets at the end? No.
Oh, you mean from Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Mark Brunell.
Yeah, Brunell, yeah.
Yeah, but not well. And then we had Mark Sanchez for a while. Yeah. So, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if Aaron Rodgers would be the best quarterback in Jet history without a question. You know? Like, it's such a joke, the level of quarterback. You had Bart Starr, Lynn Dickey, who was an excellent quarterback, isn't even talked about. Like, Mikowski, who was an excellent quarterback, isn't even talked about. You have 6 quarterbacks who would be better than our second. You know, it's just a joke.
In my 28 years, I've never seen not a Hall of Fame quarterback play for the Packers.
So I'm just saying. So,
is it the Yankees hat? Are you a big Yankees fan?
No, I'm not actually.
Okay.
I got this at Ross's Dress for Less for like $8. I grew up a big New Jersey Nets fan. Now they're the Brooklyn Nets.
Okay.
But mainly, when you become a writer and you cover sports, you lose a lot of your fandom, and I definitely have.
Okay. I hopefully I never do. I'm obsessive with my sports teams. Like, I have this thing, just because I'm interviewing, we're talking about Brett Favre, I thought I'd throw on the Brett Favre jersey, but I'm a diehard Mariners fan. And if the Mariners win, I wear the same jersey the next day. I keep it going. And then I wash it and that kind of stuff. Like, I like those obsessive super fandoms kind of things. Like, living out here in Portland, the big fandom is the Portland Timbers. And that Timbers Army is, if you've never seen it, you need to experience it, even if you're not a soccer fan. It's otherworldly, how loud and passionate those people can be. I had a thought, and I've lost it now. With COVID and everything, and being a reporter, do you think it's going to be harder to get back into locker rooms?
Well, right now it's impossible.
Right, but do you think when everything gets back together?
I think, yeah. I don't think – this is a crappy situation. I live in California. It sucks.
Okay.
It's really bad. And it's hard to imagine a day anytime soon where there's going to be the comfort level where you can just walk up to someone and start asking questions. I just think we're a long way away from that.
No, exactly, 100%. I just was wondering with, like, sir, I feel like the NBA is probably one of the best ones at it, where a lot of their superstars don't like talking to reporters. Like, Russell Westbrook won't give answers, really.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Like, I wonder if he had it his way, he would have never talked to the press.
Well, the problem is, not the problem, but the reality is, like, we're not as needed as we used to be in that regard. Like, they have their social media feeds. They have their team websites. You know, like, if Russell Westbrook wants to say something, he can go on Twitter and tweet it out, or Instagram and put it out, or whatever. So it gets harder and harder in this business to get people to give you the time, because they have their own – they feel like they can control their own message now. And also, it used to be teams – all the teams have a media relations person who would handle media. But now, oftentimes, those people barely matter, and you have to go through the publicist, the person's agent, handler, and it just gets a lot harder.
That's because I was going to just ask you that, being, like, new into this and trying to interview anybody we can talk to. Like, what is your advice to new reporters or new people in the press? I mean, kind of thing, like people who start podcasts or want to be journalists or any of that stuff.
Well, I think number one, starting a podcast is super smart and cheap and should be done immediately. Like, whenever I hear young journalists now who during COVID are like, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Well, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Do a show Do an Instagram live show, do a YouTube live show, do a podcast, whatever. Do a show. Social media is your friend. Like, you want to reach the guy who played for the Packers? Go on Twitter and find someone who played for the Packers. There are 8 million guys who played for the Packers on Twitter. Now, you might end up getting the guy who kicked 3 games for the 1992 Packers, but great. You know, like, when I try finding people, the number one place I go is social media. And it's an amazing tool that we did not have. For all the bads of social media, the ability to reach out to people is extraordinary.
And you never know who's going to respond. Like, in a million years, I never thought you were going to respond to me. I just went for it. Never thought Dave Sims was going to answer me back. I mean, but Dave's really cool. He's done that. He's answered questions for me back before, but you never, like, put it out there like, these are the people I want to talk to, and I hope it happens. I never just thought that being a month in, I'd be talking to cool guys like yourself and Dave Sims. And
I'm going to tell you one of the big secrets. All right, there's a big secret.
All right.
Me, Dave Sims, the second baseman for the Mariners, the Packers kicker. We all go to the bathroom. All of us. And we all have to take in the garbage cans. And we all have mail. And we all have struggles. And we're all like, it's always funny when people say, like, I never thought I would get, like, I just write books. I literally sit at my desk. Here's my desk, and I write books. Like Dave Sims, he's a broadcaster for a baseball team. Like, he watches games, and generally speaking, when someone reaches out, especially in the manner you reached out, it's flattering, and like, why wouldn't I talk to you? Like, what? I should be as honored talking to you as you should be for me. Like, you're taking the time, and you're a guy who is passionate about a subject I wrote about. To me, why wouldn't I talk to you?
How many hours did you put into that book, into The Gunslinger? How many hours do you actually put into any of your books?
I don't know hours, but years. It's usually 2 years-ish.
2 years.
Yeah.
And just deep dive. Do you talk to the subject as much, or do you just go and talk to the best friends, or like whoever you can get a hold of?
Anyone I can. Favre wouldn't talk, but it was a weird one because Favre's family talked. So
his brother, his sister. Big ass family.
He has 2 brothers. So basically, here's what happened. It was super weird. I didn't know if Brett would talk or not. I found his sister Brandy on Facebook. Brandy's awesome. I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm doing a book about your brother. Any chance you'd be willing to meet if I come to Mississippi? Because the family's in Mississippi. And she's like, well, let me know when you're here. Maybe we can grab coffee. I'm in Mississippi. This is all over Facebook. I DM her on Facebook. Hey, I'm here. She wrote back. She's like, why don't you just come by the house? Okay. I go to the house. Brett's mom is there, and she's there. And they're like, so is Brett helping you with the book? And I said, I honestly don't know. And I thought usually that's a moment where they're like, well, we can't talk either. Not the Favres. Well, what do you want to know? 2 hours later, they sent me home with scrapbooks. Literally scrapbooks from Brett's childhood. Like, they're just warm and giving and decent people. I have very little in common with them from a... Like, one thing that bothers me right now, like I was thinking, like, you said you're conservative, I'm liberal.
Right.
Too often right now in this country, it's like, well, that's it, blah, blah, blah. And it annoys the hell out of me because, like, I'm very political. But, like, 99% of things we can talk about. In fact, I would even argue, like, if we talked about politics, you may be like, I'm very pro-gun. And I'm like, I'm not very pro-gun. And you're like, well, I believe in gun rights. And I go, like, well, what does that mean? And you're like, I think everyone should have the right to have a gun. And I say, okay, well, what if we just agree to a certain waiting period? Would you be okay with that? And you might be like, yeah, well, I can work with that. And I could say, well, what if we keep magazines at so-and-so? And you're like, yeah, I can work. Like, social media has ruined everything in this regard. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, 100%. I just got an argument with a guy on my personal social media because I try to keep them separate because I definitely am more outspoken on that one. Like, because Abe is more liberal than I am. He definitely reels me in from getting myself in trouble. Because especially in today's like society, you can't say that you're going to vote for President Trump or you support Trump or any of that kind of stuff. You get slammed. Like this guy on Twitter, because I'm big in the hobby, sports hobby. He goes, any hobby account that supports President Trump, just block me now. And I had to say something. I go, that's not the right way to think. I was like, that's hateful. You're spewing hatefulness. No. Like, just because I think something different than you doesn't mean I'm wrong. We all have opinions. My opinion to me could be right. Your opinion to you can be right. Like, we can butt heads, but at the end of the day, we can sit at a table and still be friends. I mean, my brother is extremely liberal, and I'm pretty conservative. We'll argue about it. At the end of the day, we can still be brothers.
Well, just like we have like, it's just weird. Like it's become
we've never been so divided as a country.
It's very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. I'm like,
it used to be like you could be like my mom and I were just talking about. She's like, you used to be able to be a Democrat and a Republican, and it wasn't a big deal.
You wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know.
But now it's like everybody like you have to like be one or the other. That was my big falling out because I really like the Timbers and the Portland Thorns because I think it's awesome when a city supports women's sports, especially like to the level of where they put it at. I mean, 23,000 people attend their women's matches, and they're very political though. The supporters group is, and you're either with them or you're against them. And some of the stuff I think is pretty cool. Some of the stuff I think is wrong. Like, I don't agree with it. Like, am I not allowed to, like, be, like, 50-50?
I know. It's weird. And the most annoying thing is, like, most people, if they just sit down, the problem is, like, the political parties want us to be like that.
Right.
And I'm very liberal, again, but, like, political parties want to make it, like, Joe Biden is so-and-so. Donald Trump is so-and-so. This congressman is so-and-so. That congressman is so-and-so. And, again, just like I said to you, like, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, your congressman, my congressman, they all go home. They all go to the bathroom. They all have garbage cans. They all have like we're just people who disagree on certain issues. It's just I don't know. It just drives me crazy.
No one's gonna ever agree on the same things, and I felt bad like for Brett because my dad's extremely conservative. And when Brett came out and talked about Colin Kaepernick, he's like He's like I'm mad at Favre because I got this photo and he was trying to get it from me. He's like I don't even want it anymore. He's like I'm done with him. And I'm like, well, you can give me all your Brett Favre stuff because he's got signed helmets. He's got everything to Brett. And then Brett has a photo of Donald Trump, and he's like, I'm perfectly fine with him again. I'm like,
I actually thought
Brett Favre's allowed to do what he wants to do.
And in a way, it was interesting. Like, in a way, Brett Favre was like, he throws support. Like, I mean, I'm human too. He throws support for Kaepernick. I'm like, all right, good for Brett Favre. You know, that's cool. He's kind of, then he poses with Trump. I'm like, oh, what the hell? I'm like, in a way, he kind of deserves credit because he actually express varying opinions, which you should be allowed to do. Like, I can support Colin Kaepernick's right to take a knee, and I can also be like, I can play golf with this guy, and I like this guy. Like, you should be able to do that.
And it was hilarious because I don't think any other athlete could get away with that like how he did because that's so Brett to do it, be able to be friends with everybody like you said. Like how he had teammates from all over, from everywhere, and he was buddies with them all.
Yep.
Right now, your last book was the USFL. What made you want to write about that league? Like, it's very not a lot of people know about it.
That's because you're young, man.
Hey, Portland had a team, right?
Yes, the Portland Breakers.
Yeah, the Breakers.
I just loved the USFL when I was a kid. I loved everything about it. I was a young kid. I was like 10 when it came along, and
didn't Trump own the league?
Trump, no.
Okay.
He would like you to believe that Trump owned. All right. If you want to know one of the reasons I hate Trump, it's because he ruined the USFL. He ruined my favorite sports league.
Right. There's the 30 for 30.
30 for 30 about it. And I was just a kid who loved the colors and loved the helmets and loved the newness of it all and just thought it was really cool. So I just always loved it. And when I was a senior in high school, I wrote my senior thesis for my English paper, my English class on the downfall of the USFL. And I always just had in my head the USFL. And it was the most fun book I've ever had. It was just ridiculously fun.
I mean, they made some crazy moves because they signed Herschel Walker. Mm-hmm. Who was they went after Phil Simms? Was it Phil Simms? What quarterback?
They did go after Phil Simms, but really, if you want to talk about quality player,
right?
They signed 3 straight Heisman Trophy winners. Herschel Walker, then Mike Rozier, who you probably don't remember from Nebraska, and then Doug Flutie, who you might know from Boston College.
Who doesn't know Doug Flutie? He threw like the greatest Hail Mary of all time.
Exactly. So then, like, it was the birthplace of Steve Young started there. Sam Mills started there. Reggie White started there. So, you know, they had hundreds of NFL players, a bunch of Hall of Famers. It was just a great, and it was supposed to be a rival league to the NFL, and they played in the spring instead of the fall.
Do you think the XFL could be that again?
No.
Or why? Just because COVID killed it, or the play was so bad?
I think the biggest problem is back when the USFL came around, the NFL was September to January, and that was the NFL. There was no NFL network. Nobody cared about the combines. The draft wasn't nearly as big a deal. And now the NFL it's a 12-month endeavor, and it really is. It's a 12-month time off. So to come along now like the USFL, the whole thing was, we have football in the fall, and people miss football in the spring, so let's get football. People don't miss football. I think if anything, people get a little tired of it because there's so much talking about it now. I just think it's a almost impossible landscape to enter at this point.
I thought they were pretty ballsy because I remember when the first XFL came out and it was
not good.
No, it was not good.
No.
Vince McMahon got too excited, put too much wrestling, sports entertainment into that brand. I thought some of the XFL was good and some of it was really bad. I have a cousin who's trying to make a dream out of playing professional football, and that was a league that he was interested in. He actually signed with the Canadian Football League, and their season just got canceled. So, yeah, I mean, he got – it was really cool. He's from Missouri, but his only NFL game was a preseason game. He was with Oakland, and he played in Seattle. So my mom got to go up with my aunt and watch him and all that kind of cool stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, and especially having John Gruden as your coach, and like John Gruden came up and said, "What's up, man?" And he's like, "That's so cool." John Gruden talked to me.
You always have a story to tell.
Right, exactly. And that's the one thing I like talking about. Anybody who's been in sports, there's so many stories. Who's somebody you really want to write about, like in your next couple books? Is there a big like person that you've always wanted to write about, or a big sports team? You're just chomping at the bit to get to.
I would love to write a Tupac biography.
All right.
I'm a big hip hop fan.
Okay.
Grew up a big hip hop fan. Grew up a big Tupac fan. It's I know it's not sports, but I would say my dream biography is Tupac Shakur.
No, that's perfectly fine. I love hip hop. Do you like modern hip hop, or are you an old school kind of
guy? I'm both.
I hate this mumble rap. I'm not a mumble rap guy.
I don't like. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, I guess so. I mean, I'm really I would say my golden era of hip hop to me is kind of late '90s. I know it's cliche, but Tupac, Biggie, Nas. I don't know. I guess.
I'm definitely in the Lil Wayne. I mean, Eminem's my favorite rapper, favorite artist.
Yeah, Eminem's great.
I mean, he's not scared to say what he wants to say. And I can respect that. Like, he just goes out there. His last 2 albums, he just crapped on everybody and didn't really apologize for it, nor he needs to. And I like Lil Wayne because he's Packer fan. No, I like his beats. Never know what he's saying. He's kind of the first one to do the mumble rap, and then all these kids are just following him and have no idea what to do.
I have a writing podcast, and a guest 2 weeks ago was one of my favorite writers. It's a guy named Royce the 5'9", who's a Detroit rapper.
Yeah, he raps with Eminem.
Yeah, love Royce the 5'9". He's just a brilliant writer. So, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool how Eminem, like, how he can, his rhymes, like, being a guy from Detroit, not very educated, but how he puts his words together are brilliant. I
mean, you listen to him, or you listen to Royce, or you listen to Tupac, certainly, like, some of these guys.
Dear Mama by Tupac is such a good song.
Great song. Yeah, it's a great song. Life Goes On is a song my son and I listen to a lot. He's just great. And you could tell a lot of these guys, like, they weren't educated, but they were ridiculously smart and intelligent. And they didn't go to college because their careers took them in a different path in their life. But, I mean, Eminem and Royce the 5'9" are as good at writing as any journalist you'll find out there. They're beautiful writers. They're just really smart, sharp writers. So you don't have to go to college to be, a good writer.
Well, I was just about to say that because I'm not college educated. So, and I know that's the big thing now. Everybody has to be college educated. Do you think that puts somebody in my shoes trying to start a media, being a content creator, like trying to get into reporting, does that put me like behind the power curve that I don't have the communications degree that they want all dish jockeys or people who talk?
I mean, it kind of depends what you want to do. If you want to get a job at newspapers barely exist, but if your goal one day was to write for ESPN.com, right. Well, it just depends what you want to do. But
the goal is that I like to talk, and I like to talk about sports and what I'm passionate about.
So I think if you want to be like a sports radio guy, I don't think it matters if you went to college, as long as you're good at what you do, and you seem very good at what you do. So.
Oh, thank you very much. I always second guess myself with this.
It's the beard.
It's the beard. I put it years of bartending. I think that really helped me out, be comfortable to talk to anybody and about anything. I mean, I always just stuck with sports to talk to people because it doesn't piss them off as much as everything else can these days, especially up in where I live.
I would say sports is like no one in my family knows anything about sports. Like my parents don't care about sports. My brother didn't care about sports. And I always say, being able to talk sports is like being able to speak a language, a foreign language, where it really comes in handy. And inevitably, you're going to be in an awkward situation, and someone's going to be a Texas Rangers fan, or tell you they went to Ohio State, and to be able to just pull out a reference from when they were there. Oh, were you there when Eddie George was there? Or oh, were you blah blah blah? Were you blah blah blah? Like it's like its own language, and it's like comfort food for people.
Well, and I definitely grew up in a sports family. My dad is from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Grew up in the '80s. Like tells me all about how great the '80s Brewers were. Robin Yacht's hero. Raleigh Fingers is the greatest thing ever. I mean, and then he kind of talks about the Bucks. He's more into the Bucks now, as you have Giannis Antetokounmpo doing the crazy things that kid can do. And then the Packers were, I mean, that's just something. I mean, my parents are divorced, and my mom still watches Packer games religiously. And she wasn't a Packers fan before they got together. And it's just something that kind of big in our family. My stepdad's from St. Louis, still a Cardinals fan, and he's older. He's 67, so I get to hear those awesome stories about Stan the Man Musial and how great Bob Gibson was and how Ozzie Smith's the greatest shortstop of all time, and Derek Jeter sucks.
Funny. Yeah. Wow.
And it's cool, like, to be able, because it is another language. You can talk to anybody about it. My friends always give me the joke that I'm like the Rain Man, because you can name a basketball player and I can tell you where they went to college.
Oh, I'm like that too.
It's really hard to do it with football, and it's impossible to do it with baseball. But college basketball, it's pretty easy. And like some people have a difficult, like Karl Malone. Where'd he go?
He went to Southeast Louisiana State. Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, he went to Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, Louisiana.
Like
Tech.
those things that people don't know. Like, and
give me another one.
Steve Nash.
Santa Clara. Come on, man.
Scottie Pippen.
Southwest Arkansas.
Yeah, and then what about Dennis Rodman?
Oh, didn't he go to South?
He went to Southeast Oklahoma.
Southeast Oklahoma.
Yeah, so they went to like weird schools.
Yeah,
and those are fun. And then and I always tell people, if you're gonna play the game, just guess Duke or North Carolina, and you'll be good. Because people get confused. Like if you ask them Vince Carter, a lot of people that are younger don't know where Vince Carter went, even though I can't believe the guy just retired. That blows my mind that he's been playing
amazing career.
Watching the NBA. He's had an interesting career because of all the hype that he had. He kind of never hit the superstardom that I think he wanted to.
He was a pretty big star.
Was he?
Yes.
I mean,
especially Toronto early years and then New Jersey.
Okay, I just feel like up here in Portland we get put in like this bubble because it's like us, and it used to be the Sonics, but now it's just us. And like Damian Lillard walks on water out here, as he should.
He's good. He's great.
This guy is otherworldly talented, and I will admit, early on in his career, I was not a fan of him. I didn't think he could be as good as he is today.
Oh, he's really good.
I was on the LaMarcus Aldridge train. I thought LaMarcus Aldridge was going to carry us all the way, and this kid from Oakland was going to do nothing. And he's another one of my favorites because his entire life he's been undervalued. So I think we're getting into this hour where we like to hit. To end up the podcast, I like to ask 6 questions. They're rapid fire. They're not. They're just kind of fun and easy to hit. And so,
did you write them already? You already have them ready?
Yeah, they're already written.
All right, let's go.
All right, what's your favorite food?
New York City pizza, good slice.
Who's your favorite athlete to write about?
Favorite athlete to write about?
Yeah.
I'll say Ken Griffey Jr.
Why? It's a follow-up.
Just thinking he was an artist and just a delight, and just a fascinating guy and a really good guy.
Will you ever write a book about him?
That's not a bad subject, maybe.
I mean, he's so interesting, like how much he hates the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I mean, I'm indifferent with the Yankees. Though, I mean, the only thing the Mariners can never talk crap to the Yankees is 95. That ALDS, Edgar's double. Nothing better than that. Because I'm a big baseball fan. Who's your favorite baseball player? Like of all time or current?
Oh, Ken Griffey Sr. Ken Griffey's dad was my favorite player as a kid.
Really? I never got to see him play because...
he wasn't amazing. I just loved it. He had the best afro. And when I was a kid, I freaking was like, man, I was all about like afros and sideburns and cool names. And Ken Griffey Sr. had a great afro.
That's awesome. Oh no, why did that disappear? All right, beer or wine?
Neither.
Do you not drink?
I do not drink.
That's the second one in a row. We interviewed Greg Kreindler last night. I don't know if you know. He's a great artist. He paints dead baseball players. He just did 233 paintings on the Negro Leagues.
You don't mean literally, like he doesn't go up to their graves and paint them?
No. He takes black and white photos and then turns them into color. But he was a non-drinker and I'm a non-drinker, so we're 2 in a row with that one.
Yep.
What's your ideal ball game food?
So we live out here near the Angel Stadium.
Okay.
The food sucks. It's so bad.
I've never been. The only one I've been to is Chavez Ravine.
It's terrible. I would say what I do like, though, it's horrible for you. I like a big-ass thing of nachos where they just drip the crap all over it, and maybe you're eating it out of a helmet. And like the Angels do have that. The helmet nachos.
Yeah, we have those in Seattle. I actually have it hanging above my head, the one that they use.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
That's the one with and the little one's the ice cream. And they do pulled pork barbecue nachos.
I don't eat pork, but I respect that.
Oh, it's so good. And then last question, and I do judge everybody on this. What's your favorite sports movie?
Oh. I have 2. Can I have a tie?
Yeah, no, I have like 3 or 4, so it's fine.
I go A League of Their Own.
Okay, that's a good one.
You've seen it, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and Creed.
Who? Over Rocky?
Creed.
Yeah.
The latest one.
Yeah, the newest one. I just was like, over Rocky? Like, I mean,
yeah, I think Creed is one of the best movies of all time.
I go Bull Durham, number 1. I love it.
You say Field of Dreams, though. Give me a freaking break. Are you about to say that?
I hate that movie.
Yeah, me too.
Hate that movie. Yeah. My second one, not a lot of people like, another Kevin Costner. I like For Love of the Game. And then Major League. I'm definitely on the baseball side.
No. For Love of the Game
Love
is one of the worst movies that's ever been made about anything. And wait, the dialogue is so corny. And like John C. Reilly as the catcher coming out and being like, just give us one more, Chuck. Just give us one more. What? Like in real life, this is what would happen. He runs up to the mound. He goes, check out the tits of the girl 3 rows back. Fucking, man. How about that? All right, good.
Well, that's why Bull Durham's so good because they have those.
Yes. And to put those 2 movies in the same, I know they both have Costner, but besides that, no.
I like that. My favorite football is Friday Night Lights. That was one of the first big books I read in high school. It came out when I was out. And just the speech that he gives towards the end, but that Billy Bob Thornton gives is amazing.
Yep.
And then boxing, I'm a big Rocky fan. I like the 6th Rocky when he's old. Because I'll always love nothing hits harder than life. I think that's probably one of the best sports quotes.
My son and I recently watched that movie. Here's the thing. First of all, it's a can't win for Antonio Tarver's character, the young fighter, Mason Dixon. Because if he wins, he just beat up a 6-year-old man. If he loses, he got beat up by a 6-year-old man. I don't like how the movie it ends, and everyone's like, wow, you really earned respect. Like, you went 12 rounds with a 60-year-old guy. Like, in real life, that would have been a lose-lose
situation.
Yeah, there's no way it's like, oh, you did great. No way.
Well, and I forgot to ask this during the interview. We're still recording, luckily. What do you think about this whole Fernando Tatis Jr. stuff going on? Hitting a home run 3-0.
No problem with it. 0.
Why is everybody bitching about it?
Because there's nothing else to talk about right now because we're in a pandemic.
Okay. I love what Johnny Bench said. Like, you swing at it, like, no matter what, hit the ball.
Also, like, it's a 7-run lead. That is not an insurmountable lead. You're not up by 19. You're up by, it was 7, right?
Right, it's 7-0.
It is possible they come back from a 7-run deficit. So, right? I mean,
right. No, well, it happens all the time. I mean,
right.
I come from the thinking of it's professional sports. That's why, like, I will say I love Kobe as much as I love Michael Jordan. And why I don't like LeBron as much, because I don't think he has that. LeBron doesn't have that cutthroat mentality.
Yeah.
Like, the only time I ever saw LeBron James play basketball was with Cleveland. It was against Blazers. They were losing big at half, and LeBron subbed himself out until he was done. The only time I ever seen Kobe play was his last game ever against the Portland Trailblazers at the Rose Garden. I sat by C.J. McCollum's mom. Kobe didn't give up, and they're going to be bad. And he just kept playing hard and didn't care. And that's where I will say I respect that more. It's professional sports. You play to win. You don't play for fun.
I agree.
This isn't
Maybe you play for both. Maybe you play for both.
Well, you play for both at that point. Well, everybody, thank you for watching Just Mitchin. The floor is yours. Do you have anything to promote, sir?
I got nothing, man. I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be here.
Thanks, brother. Everybody have a good one. Thank you, Jeff, for coming on, man. I really appreciate this. This was extremely fun to talk about everything and all that.
My pleasure.
No, thank you. And when's your new book come out? Your
September 22nd. So
September 22nd. Are you working on a current book right now?
I am.
Can you? I'll take the recording. Can you talk about it at all?
Cannot.
Okay.
I'm just super secretive about this stuff because I'm paranoid.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. We will have this out. I don't know, probably next Monday because we dropped Craig's video because he lives in New York, and last week he lost power. So we try to do a video a week because Abe's super busy. He's now moving and stuff, and and I don't know how to do all the technical stuff. That's how him and I kind of partnered up. More, I talk throughout the show, and he kind of likes to sit there and just listen to the conversations, and sometimes butts in.
Right.
All right, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Good talking to you.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye.
Just